Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Three Principles Global Community webinar. The Three Principles Global Community, or 3PGC, is a nonprofit organization that's committed to bringing an understanding of the three principles as introduced by Sydney Banks to people throughout the world. Today, we have Lyn McCright and Teresa Walding with us, and Lyn was the founder and Teresa is the content creator for the Advancing Nurse Coaching Program, which is a 3 principles-based coaching program for nurses and health professionals. Lyn and Teresa, thank you so much for being with us today. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Oh, it's just wonderful to be here with you, Bonnie. Thank you so much for having us. Well, our topic today is bringing the principles to leadership. And we wanted it to be as broad as possible because we know that every area of endeavor has leadership. And even though the examples that Teresa and I will give in regard to nursing and healthcare are our personal examples, please know that they will be applicable in all other areas of work. So we just wanted to preface it with that. We are so fortunate to be here today. And by today, I mean at this point in history. When Florence Nightingale said in the year 1870 that it would be 150 years before people would see the kind of nursing that she envisioned, that year would be 2020, and things changed. So here we are, 2021, and huge changes have taken place, not only in our profession, of course, and not only in the US, but worldwide. And many of our colleagues have elected to choose other professions. So it's a very interesting point in time for us to be bringing the principles in this specific time to our nursing leadership. But we know that through the students in our school, and we teach not only nurses, but also all licensed health professionals. We are so fortunate to have the opportunity to bring this to the health professions because we know that change comes from within and that we will see this spreading out through other communities as our students begin their work in the world. Teresa, how would you like to begin?
Well, I was sitting here thinking about the topic today of bringing the principles to leadership. And then I was remembering in my past, when I first graduated nursing school in 1993, one of my very first leaders was a lady named Arlene Engelbert. She's not here anymore. But the very first thing that she told me was, we're so glad you're here, and we trust that you have within you to do this job very well. She said they had never given a new grad the opportunity to work straight out of school into the ICU. So I knew that I was trying to fill some really big shoes, but I just remembered the feeling that of those words within me that was like, she trusts me. I can do this job. There's something, I can't see it because I went to work every day praying that I would not hurt someone. Back then, we even had to mix our own drugs under the hood, and there's a lot of things that we had to do that we don't do now. So it was a really, really big responsibility. And every time I got worried, I remembered her words. And I thought, I didn't realize it until many years later, actually, when I found these principles. And just recently remembering that experience, that was the principles at work right there. It's been here all along. And I thought, because when we talk about bringing these principles to leadership, we know that some people are already doing or are stumbling over my words. It seems to be the thing to do. But we know it's always been here, but bringing this to people who don't know much earlier in their leadership careers, I think will just massively change the way we do leadership and nursing and healthcare in general. And it's really fascinating for me to see that at this point in my career.
Well, and maybe just talk for a minute about the Texas Organization for Nursing Leadership and how they are redefining who a leader is in regard to who they're, putting their focus on. Just say a little bit about that.
So one of the things, they changed their name from Texas Organization of Nursing Leaders. I can't remember how they said it.
Nurse executives.
Nurse executives, because they changed the name to nurse leaders because they claim that a leader is anyone who has the desire to lead. We have people even on the nursing units, could even be a new grad, who has the qualities or the desire to be a leader. And then they lead their teammates, they lead their patients, they lead the people in their lives to aspire to more, to live a better life. And so that's what their focus has changed to bring in the young leaders to come in and learn from the seasoned leaders. And I think that's a really great way to look at continuing the legacy that we all have of bringing our knowledge to the world and embracing our younger generation. It kind of reminds me of when we used to get to go to work with our parents to see what they really did at work. And, I don't know that we do that much anymore. But embracing our young people and teaching them that they do have within them what it takes to be a leader is really important.
We had the opportunity in April to speak to the Texas Organization of Nursing Leadership. And we actually did the 3-hour pre-conference for them. And we have 715 hospitals in Texas. So we had the possibility of talking to all of those hospitals. They would all have been invited. I'm not sure exactly how many we spoke to at this point. We're in touch with that committee to find out what the number was. But I just am knowing that what is missing today is the missing link. Well, that couldn't be more obvious to this group of people. But the principles are the missing link that our profession will benefit from so tremendously. And one of those ways is what Teresa describes as a disconnect between leadership and the staff, the employees at the hospital. Do you want to speak to that, Teresa?
So I've been at the same hospital for 25 years. I just recently resigned my position to work in the principals full time. But with my new eyes of seeing the principals at work in everyday happenings at the hospital, I could see the leadership, like with everything they had to let the staff know what was going on. I mean, it's no secret that the healthcare system is having a lot of issues, whether it's access for patients or meeting budgets or, working with staff with, incivility and bullying and all of the different aspects that seem to be on the forefront today. I saw them like bearing their soul to the staff, but the staff couldn't hear. Because the only thing, for example, one meeting that we were in, they were talking about the budget and why we weren't going to get a raise that year. And they talked about it like from the perspective of, if you have a home budget and you couldn't afford something, you wouldn't do it. And so I was like, well, that's true. I mean, I felt for this guy. I thought he was doing a marvelous job of expressing from a bigger level what was going on. But back in the break room, not 10 minutes later, there was all of this discontent, this anger, well, I guess we're not getting a raise kind of talk. And I said, I think everyone's doing the best that we can. And I realized that was the point that I realized where the disconnect is. We have never addressed our own perception of what's happening. we think that what we think is what's happening, and that's how it is. And in the principles, that is how it is. I think what the principles can uncover as leaders is knowing where you're coming from. You automatically know where your staff is coming from, and you have an opportunity to have a different conversation than you normally would. And so I started talking with my colleagues about this meeting that we had from what we guessed was their perspective of it. And they're like, well, yeah, we've never, ever had a meeting like that where they told us all these things that were going on. And I said, you know, that was a rare happening. I'd never seen it in my nursing career. And they started saying, well, you know, they're probably right. There's a lot of things going on. We obviously knew that healthcare was having problems with access and getting patients to come to the hospital or whatever. And they started having this little bit of compassion for him that I hadn't seen before. But it took several conversations from a principled perspective to help them to see the connection. And that's when I decided, in my mind, this is my view, that it's not a system problem, it's a people problem. We don't give each other grace, or we don't help others to see what we see. We just think our view is the view, and we don't know it, and it's not our fault. And I lose my way frequently. But when I do catch a glimpse of that, it's compassion follows. It always follows the insight into how the things actually work.
Yeah, I'm sure that for those employees, Teresa, it was a bit of a, more than a bit of a jump to hear that the hospital needed a new roof and they would not be getting a raise. On the other hand, you have to have a place to go to work.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for bringing that to them and to us here today.
Yeah.
Teresa and I had recently had a wonderful opportunity to speak at a state committee meeting. And I think I'll just preface this by saying that nursing is the largest profession worldwide. As an example, we have in this country 1 million physicians, but we have almost 4 million nurses. And those numbers are worldwide. We here in Texas happen to have a large state and a lot of hospitals. We have 500,000 nurses and 316,000 of whom are currently actively licensed. We have had the opportunity last week to speak to a state committee, and only the people who were on the committee could speak during the session. And then we had just 5 minutes afterward to speak, and they weren't allowed to ask questions or any discussion. But it was so refreshing for them to hear what we had to say. And I really look at it as a breath of fresh air. And I don't have the quote here by Scott Kelly, one of our 3P physical therapists, but I know that he was talking about the year 2020 and what he said, that the gifts of 2020 will be revealed in time, and that those gifts will be the inner gifts of our knowing that will be coming forth. And that as we go through 2021, we will see that we have been rear-ended by love. So I shared that with the committee. And afterwards, the committee chairman got in touch with me on LinkedIn, and we had a short email from another one of the committee members. So I know that they heard something new, and that they heard that we're optimistic and moving forward, and excited about where nursing is going now. And they will continue to be in touch with us.
It's an exciting time in nursing, I think. Apart, but at the same time building up. I know a lot of our nurse friends are going into private practice. They're reinventing what nursing is within the communities. We have some of our nurses who are creating programs for aging in place to help families to deal with elders in their homes, you know, and giving them the tools that they need to care for people. Not everyone is a caregiver, and we know that. But with the right connections and the right support, it's possible. We have other of our nurse friends who are creating programs for children. She's actually created an app that teaches community and team building and having goals and being able to be part of something bigger than themselves. And I thought, wow, what a wonderful way to bring community back to our world. And she's starting right there in her hometown. Through this app, she's also taking food waste and putting it where it can be used by others who can't afford it. And the children are part of that. So there's a lot of people out there creating amazing things in our communities to help keep us healthy. One of our other nurse friends is part of a committee to bring a blue zone to her town. And I was like, she said there's only 5 in the world. One of them is in California, and she wants to bring one to Texas. And on the heels of that, she said there's a couple of other cities who are also interested in that. We are moving towards health, not just physical health, but mental health. We know they're not separate. We know that hope can do anything. And when we see, in my view, that these principles are always at work, they always support us, giving them the framework to work from this space creates sweeping changes for everyone. We've been talking recently about the Modelo study, and people are like, they did what? You know, that's an amazing thing that happened. And I see that happening through nursing right now. I'm just enjoying being a part of it, you know, with all the people we get to talk with and the things that they're doing, and it's wonderful.
We're in discussion now with a small hospital in Texas, and I know that their administration is really looking at bringing this not just through the nursing department, but to all departments. And when I think about the culture change that could be potentially involved in doing something like that, if the culture of the hospital were changed, and this is a small community, the culture in the community would be changed as well. So there are very exciting possibilities and appear to me to be endless. But what Teresa was talking about a minute ago reminded me of my own encounter with the principals, which was after I had gone to graduate school. And I was so excited about graduate school because I was going to the School of Public Health. Now, those two words together are thrilling to me. Public, that's people. And health has always been my interest. So for me to have been in the School of Public Health and to have come to the end of my program and realize that I was more disillusioned then than when I had begun, I knew that there had to be something more. And I was so grateful when I started working in Texas to have a friend introduce me to Dr. Keith Blevins. And it was Dr. Keith Blevins who introduced me to Sydney Banks in 1980. The first word that I heard from Sydney Banks was complete truth. And I just never looked back from there. I knew that I had found what I had been looking for, but had no idea where to look. And within the next 4 years, I started my own private practice of nursing to bring this to people in the community where I lived in California. I had actually done all kinds of things within that community because as a public health person, I just embraced the whole community. I talked to a large institution that was having on-site job accidents, an industrial firm. And I did a weekend workshop at the Carmel Community Center with Robert Cawson after we were taking a course with he and George Pransky. We had talked to a large community center, mental health, both the patients and the staff in the same room at the same time. I saw people privately. I worked with the community clubs, Chamber of Commerce and Kiwanis. And I just saw it as being applicable everywhere. I did a little research project through the community college and even presented it at one of the Three Principles annual conferences. And that was a real awakening for me too. I was working in public health at the time, had a lot of low-income people on my caseload. And when I was at that conference, I met the women who came from the Mondello Project. And they looked exactly like the physical beings that I worked with on a daily basis. And yet when they opened their mouths to speak, it was pure truth. And I was just blown away by the possibilities for bringing people from every socioeconomic level, every culture, every background into the principles. I saw absolutely no end to this. And of course, it has been revealed that way. Last I heard, the principles were in 63 countries. It may be more by now. But I just am thrilled to be here now, watching all of this take place, bringing to people throughout the world the principles that have been so valuable to me in my life. It was as though, in a way, I got my profession back because my enthusiasm for my work and my eagerness to share was completely renewed. It was truly a breath of fresh air to have something so precious to bring to others who are working alongside me in nursing. How about you, Teresa?
I was just remembering my very first experience with the principals was a ride in a car with Lynn coming from another conference. And she's like, I think I want to bring the principles to the holistic nurses. I was like, cool, what are they? How do you learn them? And she sat there and she's like, I can't teach them to you. And my little brain went, what? You know, I've learned a lot of things, you know, certainly I can learn this. And she said, you have to experience it. It comes to you through insight. And she really didn't have any more words to say to me. And so I sort of went, okay. And we went on our merry way. Well, 6 months later is when I met Dr. Blevins. And he came and did our conference. We do an annual conference or retreat with our American Holistic Nurses chapter. And he was our speaker. It was a Friday night and a Saturday. And Friday night, he was talking about, you know, believing something works in a way that it never worked. That intrigued me because I was like, so what is that? And then he talked about separate realities and how we each have a separate reality. Well, it makes perfect sense to me. And then I can't remember what else was said, but we came back together about 8 o'clock the next morning. At 9:31 in the morning, he was talking about how your experience is created solely from your thought, your feeling in the moment. And everyone else in the world is doing the same thing. And I suddenly knew oh my God, all these things that were happening in my life at that time, also suffering from chronic pain, the pain in my body disappeared. And I was like, what is he talking about? And I couldn't get enough of it. And it changed my life. It breathed new life back into my nursing practice because I wanted to quit. I was at a point where I was like, if this is all it is, I don't want to do it anymore. I didn't know that it was my thoughts about what I was doing that was creating that desire to quit. And like the next day on Monday, I went back to work and it was like a whole new job. I had a whole new perspective, a lightness in my body I hadn't experienced in years. And Lynn and I both knew that day that we wanted to bring these principles to nursing, because if it can do that for me, I consider myself an everyday nurse. What could that do for my profession? What could that do for my friends? And it has helped a lot of my friends. One friend in particular, I was sharing my insight with her and how excited I was about these principles. And I was, telling her about separate realities and life is what you think it is. And she slammed her hand on the counter. She goes, I don't believe that. And I went, oh, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I should just be quiet now. She walked out the door and she came back in like 5 minutes later and she goes, oh my God, you're right. And it changed her. She said, I've never experienced something like that in my life. And she has a lot of trauma in her past. And she's like, I feel like a new person. I'm not sure what happened, but you need to keep doing this. And so that encouraged me, like, okay, you are in the right place. Because I had written a goal, it has to be 20 years ago now, that I wanted something to help people in the middle of the night when no one was around. Because that's the time people have come to their end of what they can think of to do to help themselves. I used to think it was a modality or something you had to do. I now know that it's the principles. I know these principles can help you settle down in the middle of the night when you don't know what else to do. And I want to help people see that for themselves, because every person that sees it changes their come from. It changed mine. It changed Lynn's. And everyone can relate to that, that as soon as you see this for yourself, the whole world changes. One person at a time.
Well, Teresa was talking about that conference in 2015 when Dr. Blevins came to speak to us. I remember a point in time where I was standing at the podium, just looking out over the audience, and I realized that I was standing on the same cliff where Florence Nightingale had stood. But instead of the dying soldiers and horses that she saw, I was seeing the dying healthcare system. And I saw bringing our special area now called nurse coaching and health coaching together with the principles would transform healthcare. So within 6 months, Teresa and I started our own school. And we have just two goals. The first of which is to bring new life to ourselves and our professions. And the second is to bring resilience to all of humanity through nursing. I was really pleased the other day. Teresa and I got to be on a virtual conference, and there was one person who kept circling around, and we each got to talk with her individually. And come to find out that she is a very well-respected author of articles on resilience. Well, resilience just happens to be our topic too. And then as we were talking, she asked if I could come and speak to her students. Wow. So here she is in leadership inviting me to talk to her students. And she's just published an article on the topic that we both share. And isn't it interesting the way that the pieces of the puzzle are falling into place? We never know what area in leadership is going to, I'll describe it as come to us next, but that seems to be the way that it's happening. Yes, we do attend professional conferences. We're going to be going to the Texas Nurse Practitioners at the end of September in Galveston on real time. That's been years since we've done something like that. So we have had the opportunity to interface with the National Black Nurses Association. It was amazing how that happened. Actually, Teresa spoke on their keynote at their virtual conference last year. Teresa spoke on the same day to a global conference, which I guess was this one, Teresa. At any rate, she spoke to a global conference, and then she spoke to a statewide meeting. And then at the end of the day, when one of our own students was not able to attend this national conference, Teresa was all ready to go. I'd just come from the hairdresser and had spoken to both a global group and a statewide group, and then spoke to a national group. And wow.
It's fun to be here now. You know, I don't think the opportunities are an accident. I think these principles are coming out organically. There are people who are ready for change. They're looking for change, and they hear something different in these principles. They resonate with it. I resonate with truth. I resonate with when I can see it for myself, and through the nurse coaching, I've been able to help people see it for themselves as well. It expands that circle just bigger and bigger and bigger. And we don't know who they tell, but we can tell when they come back around. They're like, I talked to this person. They told me to get in contact with you. And I really think that these principles, well, as we know, they're innate intelligence. We're all connected to it. And the people that are looking for it are finding ways to connect with the principles because they want that for themselves. And I don't know, you know, I'm so new at this. I'm just still in awe that I'm even here being able to share with anyone that could hear something new or something different. I'm just grateful. I just want to help people any way that I can to have this feeling and this transformation for themselves. And I'm here to do that in any way that I can. And so I take whatever opportunities I can get to help people or to get in front of a group of people to share what I've learned. I know I can't do it for them. I know I can't help them to see it, but they're listening. And I think that's an amazing place to be, especially in nursing right now. People are looking and they are desperate. And if we can offer that hope, well, as we all know, it's going out in many different ways. And this is the way we've chosen to try.
Yeah, just the fact of 2020 making it so apparent to the public, to all of us, who is responsible for our health. And what a beautiful opportunity to bring health to the public. We've had many opportunities to teach diet, teach exercise, and even the social aspect of bringing people together, which is also very healthy. But now for us to be bringing so much more. I was listening to a webinar of a nurse consultant not long ago, and it was just amazing to me the changes that had been brought about in the institution that she was working with. but oh my goodness, it just paled in my eyes in comparison to what the principals will bring. And I just am so looking forward to that. At the same time, I know that it's already bubbling up. Teresa and I are working with a company in Liverpool on possibly developing an app for ourselves, which maybe eventually allow some resilience in your pocket for nurses that are working on the floor. And I know that we've had a lot of interest on the part of other health professionals. I know that moving into health promotion is going to involve all of the health professions and life coaches as well. But I can see where coaching is coming into its own. Just for example, when I was in private practice myself in 1986, the word coaching as related to healthcare had not been created yet. But now that it has, and that there is an evolution of nurse coaching and health coaching, it's going to be so much more broad. I'll stop for a minute to say nursing is actually the only profession that offers a national board certification in coaching. So in a sense, we're way ahead of the curve in regard to that. And of course, my sense is that others will follow, but we are the first and only profession offering a national board certification. So that's something that is held in very high regard among professionals themselves and by the public too. We've had an opportunity to interface with a school that is inviting us potentially to teach their nursing students. Wow, for us to be able to come into a school and somehow work directly with students, my goodness, that is potentially going to have huge ramifications, because those students will all affect so many other people's lives. I love the way that Teresa expresses it. She says that nurses touch more lives than any other profession. And I know that to be true, because in the hospitals worldwide, nurses are working 24/7, 365. That's why our numbers are so large. We have to be there. We are there. And now to see nursing moving back into the community, and it was never gone from the community. There always have been nurses in birthing centers, in schools, working in doctor's offices, home health and hospice. So those are nurses in the community, but their numbers have been smaller. About 60% of nurses, 62% work in hospitals, and 38% of nurses have worked in the community traditionally. But now I think we will see those numbers becoming much larger. And it's interesting to know that it just came out through the Gallup poll that nursing is considered to be the most ethical and the most honest of professional. So we have the trust of the public. And as nursing is moving back into the community, nursing will be leading. And I see that we have an opportunity really that has never been presented before. And that as we bring the principles to that opportunity, it will even be more broad.
I love that Johnson & Johnson is bringing opportunities for nurse innovation. And they know that, we have a lot of workarounds in nursing. I don't know if you know that, but if something's not working just right, nurses have figured out how to work around that to the benefit of the patient. And Johnson & Johnson is asking nurses to come in with their knowledge and expertise and create things that help people be healthy and self-sufficient using technology, and then giving them, if you're selected, we did a pitch for them, but I can talk about that in a second, but they create that opportunity for nurses to shine in the way that they bring that innovation and share it with the world. One young man who has been working with them was a night shift nurse, and one of the problems that they had was trying not to wake the patients up at night when they still needed to do checks for them. So he created a stick-on light so that it didn't wake up the patient, but allows you to see the IV site and some of the other checks that we do. And it's now in production to go everywhere. Well, we don't have that ability to, he tried to market that himself, it would be really hard. But with Johnson & Johnson behind him, it's going out in record time. There's a lot of things like that that are going on in nursing. And our goal is to be on that platform again when our app is up and running, and try to get this resilience into every hospital, into every nurse's hand. If we can do that, and we can have that interface and that connection with everyone who resonates with, I know there's something more, and now we know what it is, it's the principles, there will be sweeping changes unlike anything we've ever seen. I just see that, because I've seen it in just my little small hospital where I work with my friends. It has changed us in ways we didn't know we needed to change. And it changes your come from. You look at life different. It's like you have a new set of glasses that gives you this clarity that was always there, and now you can see it. So I think for me, it's thrilling to be able to see the opportunities that have come out of COVID. Actually, I think Johnson & Johnson was working on it prior to that, but it's like 2 years old. This just got here. And anyone who has ideas for that can be part of that. They put it out to everyone. So if you have something that's on your plate that you want to share with the world, look for those opportunities, because people are bringing them out for people, everyday people, to connect with. And I think there will be a lot more opportunities in the future, because this is a really big deal.
Yeah, looking for grants and awards, it's not where we thought we would be now, but once again, it was an encounter that allowed that opportunity. I would just love to say something about how it was that we elected to work with this group professionally. And what I mean by that is, I know that a lot of people within the principals who have had backgrounds in healthcare have elected to work with business people instead of healthcare. Well, why is that? Well, it's the very reason that we are determined, and in the best possible way, to work with our colleagues, because our colleagues demand evidence-based practice. That's science. They want to know that this works. So we've been very, very fortunate to have run a study over the last 5 years working with our students, and we now are evidence-based. We have the study from Baylor University Department of Statistics that shows that of the 3 tools that we used to measure with our research, that the standard measurements of resilience have increased in each of our 3 courses as the students have gone through the coursework, from the pre-test that they took before they started the coursework to the first course ending, and then the second course ending, and the third course ending. In every instance, the scores on the resilience scales have been higher. Now, in conventional healthcare, people would say, well, they've learned resilience. They've become more resilient. But through the principles, we know that natural, inherent innate resilience that they have always had has only through our coursework become more apparent to them, that they're able to live it more on a daily basis in their life and in their work. Not that anything has been added, we have no tools or techniques, but rather that the depth of their understanding has become increased. And it's just a joy for us to see this. I haven't written the article yet, and of course, I hope that it can be published, but evidence-based practice is where the profession and all of healthcare is now. They want to see the science. So we're bringing that as well. And when we bring the science, we know that we will be able to be heard somewhat better, perhaps, than we are now.
Yeah. I think it's fun because we had a student last night who's been with us for a couple of years, and she has just made amazing strides in her own personal life and love to listen to her for hours. But she brought a question to me last night about this understanding. And she was like, she had listened to something earlier in the day about presence. And she was like, I need to read more books about it. I don't know what to do with it. Maybe I've missed something. And what came to me was the definition that we use, that resilience is not being bound by circumstances or the past. And she said, oh, you don't have to say anything else. That quote's by Val de Monroe, and some of you probably heard it. And she's like, oh yeah, if the past is dead and the future doesn't exist, you're in the present, you're in the now. That's all we have. And she was like, I don't know why I questioned that. She had known it previously, but there was that little, I think in my view, the intellect got in the way just for a minute, like trying to figure it out. And she forgot that she was already there. And she started laughing and laughing. She's like, I can't believe that I was questioning it. And I think her insight helped the other people in the class, because it's often something that we say is to become present, be with your client. You know, you're all in, you're listening to them speak and allowing them to find their way with you, you know, coaching them or supporting them and pointing in the direction of these principles. And as it turned out, I got outside in the middle of that conversation or at the beginning of it, because I was like, oh my gosh, what books do I know about presence? And not one came to mind. And now in hindsight, I'm thinking, yeah, because we're already here. And it took me a second to remember, oh yeah, this is where it's at. What we're doing right now in this moment is sharing a moment of presence. And she just kept laughing about it. And I was like, what a good reminder, because, you know, I'm sure some of us who coach others, we get lost in our own thinking about things sometimes. And it was just a really great reminder, even for me, as I said it. I didn't have those words for a few minutes, I think. And then they just came. They were like, oh yeah, that's the best description I've ever heard of what presence is. Not being bound by the circumstance or the past is perfect.
Val de Monroe, the author of that definition of resilience, is actually Mrs. Keith Blevins. So you may know her that way as well. But it was a nursing leader who was on a webinar talking about learning about presence that had raised that question for our student. And when she realized she already knew the answer, she just laughed. It was so fun to see her. But we do have new things to bring. And what we're bringing now, Teresa describes as the missing link. Imagine that, same title as Sydney Banks' book. Right now, within our nation, we have, we've talked about the focus on health promotion. And our certification in nurse coaching is only 7 years old. right now there are only 5 schools of nurse coaching in the United States, 1 in Canada. And we also have 3 academic programs that whose nurses can sit for our national board exam. And those they're spread all over Minnesota, Texas, Florida. But those are the only places that are actually offering coaching now. We have our own certificate for all other licensed health professionals since they don't have a national board to sit for. But the missing link, how did that come about? We heard one of the nurse coaches who had graduated from another program and then came to ours say at a conference to a national leader in nursing that it was our program that was the missing link in all of the other programs. It's not just about diet and exercise. If it were, we'd be there now, and we're not. It was so clear. I had a student from Europe who was with us at one point in time, and she said, Lyn, when my mom was dying, I was considering suicide myself. And when I remembered what we had talked about in class, I realized I have so much to offer, so much to bring to my profession, and through that profession to bring to people. So we're bringing this here now through our students, because Teresa and I somehow have realized that we can't do it all ourselves. And it's just more than a joy to be here now. It's our entire purpose. And I couldn't be more thrilled that Teresa has joined me on a full-time basis as our associate director. We are the tip of the iceberg of the new healthcare system that will be coming to all of us very soon. Well, anything to add? Anything to add, Teresa? We've got about 5 minutes if we want, or not, as we choose.
I think I'm good unless someone has a question or a comment.
And I don't remember, Teresa, I think, yeah, there's Bonnie. Do you want to have them chat or speak, or what would the preference be?
Yeah, if anyone has questions or comments, you can unmute yourself and feel free to ask.
Hi guys, I just really appreciated you speaking from that place, you know, like if I felt it, you know, it was real, and it's really amazing what you're doing. I'm not in the nursing profession. My mum was a nurse, was for many years. I can see what you're seeing, right? That the difference that it will make in the healthcare industry, and the way that we treat patients, the way that we see ourselves, the way that we take care of ourselves. It's, you know, it's revolutionary, right? And I can see that in your eyes and the way that you're seeing that. So that's really, really cool. I really appreciate you sharing that, because it's inspiring in how we can bring it to other arenas as well.
And how wonderful that that English nurse, Florence Nightingale, saw that 150 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I'm just reminded of, I have the notes on nursing that Florence Nightingale wrote. So I read it every once in a while. And in there, she wrote something about one of her friends, I can't remember who it was, said that we know how to take care of people day in and day out, but we don't know how to take care of the mind.
Mm.
And now we do. And I was like, whoa. And she was talking about it because she could see it. And if I could find it really quick, I would read it to you, but I'm sure I can't. But to know that it's there and that she recognized it and actually said something about it is mind-blowing. If she was like how did she know all the things that she knew? She designed our hospitals. Hospitals are designed after what she wrote, and how to take care of a person, you know, bringing in the light and getting them fresh air and changing the bandages and cleanliness. All of that came from her. And it's fascinating. You can actually hear her voice recorded on YouTube if you have a desire to look. Just look up Florence Nightingale, and you can hear her speaking. It's really amazing just to hear the power in her voice, even at 80 something years old, on that recording. I think it was Thomas Edison that she was talking to on one of the very first telephones.
No, they went and did a recording in her home.
Okay. I couldn't remember how it got there, but I still think it's fascinating for the late 1800s that she would have the foresight even to record her voice for all of humanity to follow.
You have another hand raised, Zelda?
Hi.
Oh,
I've just come back from swimming in the lake, so my hair is a mess. Do you mind if I just remain? Just
we're
with-
delighted that you've joined us.
Yeah, I got back a little bit late. That lake was just so beautiful, but I'm so glad I got back for what I could catch of this. This was just such a beautiful session, Teresa and Lyn. You guys are just doing such an important job, because it is so true. The nursing profession does touch more than anyone. Maybe school teachers might come close, but you guys touch a lot of people, you know, and are there right at that crossroads to health and wellness and illness. I just wanted to encourage you guys just to reach out to all the private nurses as well, because just a little wee story. I'm coaching now an 87-year-old retired professor who's coming out to do another lecture after being in retirement for 15 years. And he's on 20 medications, he told me. And he came to me because I'm a voice coach. And he kept clearing his throat and, you know, had a gravelly voice. And then he started talking to me about his hip and his knee and his bowels and all sorts of things. So he's got a private nurse, and she reached out to me to help. She found me. So she was actually looking for resources to help her client with, you know, his speaking. So we've done a wonderful job so far already, which is great. So between me and his nurse, we're doing a holistic approach to everything. And I'm speaking wellness into him. And I did a little bit of self-hypnosis with him. And he's already reporting great results.
Fabulous.
But what I want to let you guys know is that there are all of these nurses all over the place who would probably love to find out what you're doing, so they could find you easily, so that you can, you know, send in the right people to them, because it was just a fluke that this nurse found me. I mean, I'm in Nashville. I'm on the other side of the country. She just looked out for me for voice coaching. So gals, do you need any help? Do you want me to reach out?
Yes.
Yes.
That's our main issue, is actually finding people. We've worked at this, and we may be engaging someone with social media very soon. It's very easy to find us. We're on a website that has just 2 words. The first word is nurse, and the second word is coaching.
Nurse coaching. All right. Do you want me to reach out to Grace, the nurse who reached out to me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Give her
my client.
nursecoaching.com.
Great. Okay. I'm going to write that down right now, because my client is saying that she is the biggest genius in the world because she found me. And
Yeah.
wait till she finds you guys.
Wow.
He's gonna love that, and I bet he's got a whole bunch of friends too. So it's nursecoaching.com. Okay, fantastic. That's all I wanted to say. I just want to encourage you girls. It's so needed, and there's a mountain of work to do. And if you need me to help you in any way, I'll just reach out to Grace, and
That's fabulous.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everyone either is a nurse, knows a nurse, or has a nurse. So
Yep. That's
thank you.
right. I hope I never have to need a full-time nurse, but
If you do, we'll be there.
fantastic. I look forward to that.
Glad you enjoyed your swim today and you're taking care of yourself first.
I absolutely am. Thank you so much, girls. It's been a pleasure listening to you.
Thank you.
For being here.
Thank you, Bonnie, so much for having us today.
Oh, thank you for joining. This was a great
Oh.
webinar with,
Yeah, I guess I need to put underneath of our accolades that we do have our 3 principles group for health professionals. So they can just get in touch with me at my email, lynmccright at gmail.com.
great. And I'll have your website listed underneath the recording on YouTube for anyone who wants to reach them.
Okay, great, great.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, what a
It's been
privilege.
fun. Good to see everyone.